We have a map veto system for you now just to see exactly where we will and won't play. Nip will ban first, then we'll hop over to BD, back to Nip, back to BD, and we'll end up with one of the maps selected, Oregon and Villa, unable to be played because if you recall at the end of last season, Villa was played. I believe it was by Nip. So we'll see Border and Consulate go. Border being one of the most played maps in Latin America this time around. Coastline gone, leaving us with Clubhouse and Bank, and what is typically a staple of Latin America will be Bank.
This should be a good one between these guys. Obviously, nothing's changed on that one as opposed to Consulate, but there are new operators to deal with that I feel like could factor in this. I believe in Montreal we did see a little bit of play with them on this map, although I wouldn't say this was the map that we saw. A lot of them definitely potential here, though, as Latin America does like shields, so I think there's a good chance we could see that on defense. Yeah,
I wouldn't be too surprised to see shields get run here, especially when you've got Ninjas in Pyjamas in action. Both, we saw two separate players, not just Julio, but I think it was also PZD playing the Blitz, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. Somebody's obviously going to fact check me. But we poll you to see what you think of this particular matchup. How is it going to end up? And unsurprisingly, Nip with quite a large lead there, 67-24 to 9.
I think that seems about right given the stats, but at the same time, you know, lots of opportunity to change things up, and we don't really know how Small performs. So if he really shows up, I feel like we've seen a lot of new players on teams really showing up. It's just been the case for the most part. Like, you bring someone new in because they're really good. And I guess team chemistry hasn't been the biggest issue in terms of stopping these new teams from doing well. So I expect big things of him.
Paula got picked up by Boot Camp and then has been one of their best players over the last couple weeks. And he was a huge part of why they almost made the quarterfinals in Montreal just this past weekend. So don't ever underestimate the impact that one pickup can make.
Just ask Cloud9.
A team. Just ask Cloud9. Mark the Shark coming in, and they don't win DreamHack Montreal unless they pick up Mark. First ban is going to go to Nip, and they're going to take out Hibana. I remarked on this yesterday when I was casting with Michael that we don't see a lot of hard breachers being banned anymore, especially in Montreal. Typically, Lion ends up being banned, and then some other utility-based operator usually ends up being a counter ban. This time around, no Hibana on Bank is going to be very interesting to watch.
Well, no Lion ban, actually, though. That is something we've seen. Like you mentioned, a lot of Lion bans. Glaz is the one that seemed to have fallen off in Montreal. In this case, though, neither of those coming out. Also, that means Maverick is still available here.
And Maverick didn't really have that much of an impact yesterday.
No.
Neither did Clash, but this has been typically a Clash-friendly map. A number of North American teams at Montreal was running Clash, but
not today.
Not today. Ying and Clash both being taken out by Black Dragons, and you know that Ying is played predominantly by Nip on attack, so it's a smart counter ban there. Though I am surprised they're going to let the Glaz go through when we look at the way that Nip plays, especially given that Glaz can be so powerful on Bank in particular.
And his recoil has gotten just better rather than worse.
Unless you're running a silencer.
That's true. That hopefully they realize that.
Which Nip does.
That's true. They did that specifically just for them.
Well,
actually, wait, wasn't it their gun skin on the OTS?
That is correct.
Remember correctly too. So
of course, I mean,
that's a good point.
Name a Glaz on Ninjas in Pyjamas. Name a more iconic duo. It's Psycho that usually runs that Glaz and does so very proficiently. And then when Glaz gets banned, he usually just runs Ash. So there you have it.
There's the Maverick, assuming he doesn't get 6th pick, as well as that Lion and a Montaigne. So at least a shield coming out on attack. That Cap can just looking like a bait from Wag, as is the Montaigne. But that means the Maverick's going to stick. We'll see if that's impactful. No, Wag's going to stick it.
Capkin's not a bad choice, but it looks also like Nip might have changed up some of their roles here, putting Kamikaze on the smoke. All right, and you'll probably have, I'm assuming, Wog will have to rotate alongside PZD. Now, one of the strongest criticisms against Ninjas in Pyjamas is the way that Wog will often... Oh, it appears that we're going to have a remake here as Psycho has either crashed or... I'm not entirely certain, but... it'll likely come back to us.
All right.
All right. So you hear the anguish, the cries of anguish and screams, screams of everybody.
Those ones are from us.
Yeah, those were not our cries of anguish. So, I don't know. But anyway.
All right.
Hello. Nice to see everybody.
Welcome back.
Hopefully you had a great time.
Well, at least I enjoyed the band phase.
Great casting with you.
Yeah, no, it was good.
Great day. Take care.
All right. Well, hopefully
there will probably be people who actually like turn it off.
Yeah, no, please don't. Please don't.
They'll turn in and just be like, wow, it's already over?
Yeah.
No.
I have a feeling this will be a little bit longer than that, despite the postponed match. But either way, that is a one of the reasons it might be longer is some starts like that. But at least we got a taste of what they're going to be doing. They are going to be starting down on lockers. Some interesting picks coming out from that. I imagine they have to pick the same operators, but I'm not sure if they necessarily have to 6-pick it the same way. But they have to have the same end result. And I don't think there was a chance to see what the 6 picks actually were from the other team in terms of droning them out or anything. So
no, it wasn't. I don't even think it came that long.
Yeah.
So there was a call for a remake almost immediately.
So no need to try and bait it a different way or anything like that.
Yeah.
I would imagine if you want to still not reveal it, you want to still do it the exact same way you did. 6-pick it the same way.
I noticed that it's like I have. If I don't wear this correctly, look it. If I don't wear it correctly, you can see like a little bit of my skin.
Ooh.
So I have to be very vigilant.
That's fun.
'Cause I always want to look good for camera. You know, like I never want to look bad.
It works.
Who wants to look bad?
Who?
Who wants to look bad? Not me.
All
Genetics already make me look bad. So I try to build on it as best I can.
Well, you know
also,
what?
also, is this blazer new, by the way?
No, I think it was from a little while ago. It's just sometimes it only comes out with the blue shirt.
It looks nice.
So, thank you.
I like it.
Appreciate it.
It's like a pewter, kind of like bluish pewter mix. It's nice. I like it.
Sometimes
Doesn't it look nice?
my inability to discern different colors like that makes me feel colorblind because I have like the primaries and secondary range, and that's about it. So it's blue and bluish gray.
So fun story. I did an escape room for the first time in my life.
Oh, and you made it out, obviously.
Like 2 weeks ago. Well, I mean, it's not like you're doomed forever. Could you imagine if escape rooms were actually just a way of
Just turns into Saw.
like culling the population? Like
Yeah.
you just go into it and it's like you have to sign a waiver, like you might never return.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if
That
I'm
would
gonna
make it
play
more
this.
exciting, I'll be honest.
I went to an escape room and it was like this multi-stage process, and at the very end, you get in the final room, you have to defuse the bomb.
Oh, seems appropriate.
And it's like the person who was tasked in the group with defusing the bomb was colorblind, and this wasn't a thought process.
Oh no.
Going in, so there's like everybody's doing their jobs, and it's like connect blue A with green B in the dark, and they're just like, yeah, I have no idea how to do this.
Yeah.
And guess what? We died.
All right.
The bomb blew up.
We see that a lot in this game, though.
So I can somewhat sympathize with your inability to see certain colors. I'm like you know, like the 64-bit, like Windows 98, I can see like all the colors.
Well, that's why I was glad when they just made Capcom's lasers just invisible.
Just get rid of them.
Just get rid of them.
Because I mean,
no more colorblind problem.
It was a real thing. Like, and colorblind players playing with ACOG in general. Like, if you have issues seeing like red or different colors like that, it can be very difficult for you to see that tip of the ACOG, which is the little red arrow, on certain surfaces, and that's something that you don't really take into consideration for a lot of players here. And yeah, Capcom was a good example of that. When that Capcom laser being red, there were genuinely players who could not see that laser. For those of you that don't know, Capcom used to come with 3 EDDs, and they used to be lethal. So if you walked through one, you died immediately. No counterplay whatsoever. And they used to have a red laser that was visible. Was way more visible at
You
the
also
start.
didn't used to be able to put them in multiple heights. They
Yes.
were just at
Yeah,
the ground
you just
level,
gotta put
that's
them at
it.
the ground level. And a lot of people actually couldn't see them. So you'd be wandering through and you'd be like, oh, this doorway looks good. Boom, I'm dead.
Still have claymores with the same laser, though. Ish.
Yes.
So.
That's true, yeah. It's the little
Cafe
little
stairs and all that
faint
fun.
Red, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what back in the early days when you play Capcom, you'd set it up so you'd be like, oh, it's a red floor. They won't see this.
Seriously, there were certain maps, that would.
Cafe is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Half the cafe floor is like a brown red.
Yeah. You're like, all right, it's
Set
Cafe
it up and you're
Capcom's
just like,
map.
no one's gonna see this.
Yeah. We need some more invisible traps. Oh wait, we already have a ton.
Yeah.
We got goo mines and
Now they're literally invisible.
Yeah.
He has pots of syringes filled with goo, and also they have a cloaking device.
Oh. I mean,
why doesn't he just cloak himself?
Oh.
If he has the technology to cloak 8 little canisters, why can't he just cloak enough portions of his body?
Is it like a super vigil,
Yeah,
basically?
the technology's there.
We must
let's
build
be
it.
honest.
Yeah.
The technology's there.
Maybe it's
We just don't want to spend a lot of money.
We know there's a battery in there to cloak it. Maybe it would take a really big battery backpack to do a whole human. And Lion's got the biggest backpack, and he's got to keep that.
Is it bigger than Maestro's?
I don't know. I just thought, as I was saying that, I realized Maestro's might be pretty big as well.
Maestro's is
but he's a big guy already.
Maestro looks like Santa Claus with like the sack slung over his
I hope
shoulder.
there is a skin for that.
A Santa Claus skin?
Yeah, that would be amazing for Christmas if there was that.
Would you buy it?
I still occasionally
I'd
run
buy
the
it.
wrapping paper skin on my guns.
I'm mad that I don't have that.
All right, well.
I came in too late. All I could get was that sleigh
This
ride
is,
elf.
this is what you get when you
by the
cast
way,
me as the
great
idea phase.
Great skin. This is exactly what it is. If you ever need to to talk to Devin or I. We're big on Skinergy.
Yeah.
If you're not fragging out in style, are you really fragging out at all?
Yeah. You might as well frag yourself at that point.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's not advocate for that.
All right.
All right, we're gonna go downstairs. Also, it looks like Wog actually put the elite skin on Capcan. He didn't have the elite skin on the first time.
He's like, wait a minute, hold up.
Like, wait a minute, I can play in style. Speaking of Skinergizing.
Yeah. Well, they are gonna go with the same 6-pick as well. Looks like. Although Capcan doesn't need to 6-pick to Capcan again.
He 6-picked off Capcan onto Capcan.
It's like he 6-picked the skin at least. Well, either way, we'll see where he sets those up. He's got 5 of them now.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. He 6-picked the skin.
All right. I'm waiting for them to let us 6-pick bomb sites and then reveal those as well, too. That just seems like something they would do.
Another change that's been made for people that might not be tuning in, you see in the left side of your screen says Evil Eye. All of the individual gadget icons have been completely redone. So there was a period of time where most of the gadget icons were the exact same as the operator icons. So, for example, Thermite, his icon was literally just 2 of those breach, holes, or it's because it looks like a wall with a hole in it. Same with Levi running the or Levy technically. I guess it would be Is it Levy or Levi?
Depends on the brand awareness.
Is he just a really big fan of a certain type of pants? Or
Could be.
Is he more like a levy as in like what an actual levy functions as?
Either way, though, he's useful. That's important.
Either way, yeah. So anyway, they've changed all of these icons, just as a side note. So Breaching Torch, you'll see it throughout the course of every single game now that there's the Texan Dynamite, the Exothermic Charge now. They all have distinct and individual icons to make them easier to identify and spot. It started to happen around Dokkaebi, if I remember correctly, and Zofia. They all look different, and then it was really the first look of a difference in gadgetry versus operator icons.
That one's still the one kind of throwing me off a little bit, just because, I don't know, it looks like something I would see on the internet. Some kind of internet icon. But either way, speaking of seeing things, PZD sneaks right up on there, shoots him right in his Inox.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right in between the Inox.
Yeah, unfortunately, he didn't see those footprints coming.
He lines him up and knocks him down, and that Jaeger has done a great job of being able to open up that first pick on that open hatch, and now Drunks is going to tag himself in. Also roaming is Wog, so that was what I'd said. Both Wog and PZD roaming. Just a bit of a change as Kamikaze is going to be more on site, but Wog is still just inside of this lobby playing now by Tellers, and what a play that was.
At this rate, no one's going to have a chance to hit those Capcan traps. Also, the Lion, I don't believe, got to use any of the EE1Ds, which probably would have saved maybe one of their lives.
It doesn't look like, I don't think any of the 3 operators got to use their gadget at all, in fact.
He put the Inox on for half a second and then gone. Yeah,
didn't really get to use it that much. He couldn't see that one coming.
No. Well, we'll see though if Drunks can try and help save this, because of course he's going to have to frag out. I mean, Thermite can still frag to an extent, but against 5 here, it's going to be up to Drunks, let's be honest. We'll see where they're going to run into them. But it looks like a lot of the NIP players have pulled back a bit now that they've gotten a good taste of blood upstairs.
Yeah, this is something that is pretty part and parcel with the way that NIP plays. The Wog will just miss. Small with 1 HP. That's a heartbreaker. Capcan having a very deceptively good weapon at his disposal. Now, there's 45 seconds left. There is still time to reset Small, but there's no real utility that Drunks can have. Small is going to, Small is going to end up losing to Wog anyways. He walks right into the Capcan trap, and that's going to leave Drunks as last man alive, 1v4. I mean, he's going to have to fetch that diffuser and go downstairs to CCTV, and NIP is still able to roam. Even if they want to consolidate on site, they've still got the manpower to be able to try to keep the team alive. An engagement between Kamikaze, the Smoke, and Drunks will cost Drunks to lose all but 20 of his health. The Smoke will die, but you've still got the Zofia left, who will have to clutch in the next 10 seconds or so. Evil Eye and Yokai still in play. Drunks will drop towards the hatch and CCTV. Might go for a plant here, but no, it's PZD who started things off and will also end things. He'll get the bookend kills, and Drunks will be taken out of the fight. Yep, winning round number 1.
Good to see he didn't give up, at least. Definitely put in an effort there, tried to get to site. But such low health just did not work. I do feel like, though, had they reset Thermite, he might have survived at least one of those Capcan traps. Probably would have made a big difference in the end, though. But a good start for NIP, just eliminating those. With those roamers, it was... you set up all these Capcan traps, and they purposely made some changes to Capcan to make him a more effective roamer by putting him to a 2-speed 2 armor, and I think you see the benefit of that right there, catching him by surprise, and makes a big map, and that's why you bring that Jackal. But when Jackal's the first to fall, it's going to be face checking. Obviously, that was what happened to Jackal in the first place, and that's usually why you let your entry fragger kind of step in ahead of you, clear out those footprints. Fortunately for him, got a little greedy. See if he doesn't make that mistake again this round, but he's going to have to go for a different bomb site this time. Going to be Tellers. Oh, there we go. There's the glass.
We were waiting for it, but I mean, it's Levi who's going to play it, right? It's not Black Dragons as we'd expected them to possibly go with. So.
Maybe after the side switch. Of course, they can't play Glass at the moment.
Glass is a good map, or Glass is a good, operator on this map, no matter what. Bank has the distinction of being, in terms of square footage, one of the largest maps in the entire game. I believe the largest in the Pro League rotation as it stands right now. I would actually like to see if Theme Park is larger than Bank, but I think in terms of square footage, Bank is the largest map out of the maps that are available in this pool, which means that Glass gets a huge amount of value out of his gadget because he's designed to take long-range engagements. He often will not thrive in a close quarters situation, which is where most of the fighting happens in Rainbow Six. But on Bank, you can take those long sights, like put a Glass up on parking garage, and you can control so much of the front of Tellers as well as lobby, and then even the cutoff up to Banana upstairs. It's a good use of a Glass, and we'll see what Levi is going to be able to do with it and how exactly he's going to pull the Glass out.
It's also a reason we see a lot of Doc Rook play on this map, but they already have 2 ACOGs on their defense as well between Maestro and Echo. They will also be able to play those long angles against him, so assuming they can hear that Telltale gun sound, they might be able to identify where he's at, peeking, while they're at it. Thankfully for them, though, the Maverick lost his smoke on the TTS, and so no longer is able to help smoke for Glaz, which will make a difference. But they are running basically the same attacker lineup otherwise, just not going to have the ability to find those footprints, which I find ironic given the fact that was probably what they needed the most last round. But Drunks not having to, or not really staying on top of his job, just watches his friend die.
And that's Wog back on the smoke, so this just could simply be a difference in whatever site they want to play as. We're so used to Wog playing that smoke. Yeah. And you've got, Kamikaze, who was playing the smoke last time.
He did die last time, so.
Yeah, I mean, Wog did die last time around.
I mean, the smoke as well. I guess they both did, huh?
Well, Kamikaze died as the final 20 seconds as he got really aggressive. And look at that. See, there's the recoil that you can see of that suppressor. It just bobbles right up unless you can control it and get that second shot down early. Drunk circling towards that electrical closet. He'll see the Legion of Kamikaze throw out a goo mine, but won't bother to recontest that point, waiting to see if the Legion is going to work towards the main door of conference room. But Drunks will now have the aid of an EOD, and look at that. He'll just take Wog down to next to no HP. Might have even gotten the smoke down and will now finish him off. So you burned one of the EODs from the Lion, and you managed to secure a kill with it as the smoke was playing and more of an anchor position upstairs above the site.
Pretty typical for Wog, though. He does the same thing on Oregon. One of the most well-known roaming smokes. He usually makes it work, though, and that's going to be a bit of a big loss, but they have the Echo still left.
This is all Drunks, so he just beheads Kamikaze, and you've lost both of your operators that were playing up in that conference room. A little piece of debris will fly over top of the Echo, and they'll think that there's somebody there to bother to engage, but no, there's nobody at all. The second loss for Black Dragons is that's Reds, but Drunks will pick up his third kill as PZD has gotten a kill, but then traded right off, leaving just Julio and Psycho as last men alive for Black Dragons. The wall that leads into that office get blown wide open, but after Small is successful in exothermic charging it, he will get taken down by Psycho, and that's that suppressed MP5, able to get a kill. Equalizes at 2v2.
Well, Lee's job partially done, but that also reveals to Nip where they're planning to enter from likely, and that smoke going to give that away, but Glaz able to use it.
And I mean, how many times have we just seen a Glaz use that smoke to take up so much of the lane and just continue to walk in unassailed? Position of Psycho is spotted by both Levi and Drunks. And now it's all up to Julio, the man who's been responsible for so many clutches and just walks away with kills that he might not deserve, but it's very difficult for him to be able to kill an enemy that he doesn't even see. And there's Levi, who goes for the full rotate and lands enough shots to fell the Maestro and tie us up at 1 apiece.
Well, unfortunately for Nip, that defense is a lot more predictable in terms of roam. You're mostly going to be in a certain couple areas, mostly in the CEO and electrical closet area, janitor closet area, as well as down in the archives itself and tellers. So that didn't leave a lot of flexibility. They didn't have anyone trying to play, say, for example, server stairs come from a flank or someone hanging out in kitchen open area. Because they just weren't playing a lot of spread out defense, they weren't able to surprise as well they were the first round. And that led to a lot of early deaths, although Wag did get that first one to start off with. That was a good initial kill. Again, with the smoke, with a shotgun, playing very, very aggressively. We'll see if they can pull off this Glaz a second time as they are going to 6th pick it again for the same bomb site. So this is where it comes down to Nip trying to adjust a little bit, but they're still going to have to deal with that glass, and hopefully, for their sake, try and pick him off early, because that's really going to be a big problem for, as you saw last round.
As in their Fnatic game, as they played them twice in Paris, and as in their match against Evil Geniuses, Nip thrives off the ability to discombobulate its opponents by rotating all over and just swarming teams on defense. And if their roam game isn't able to see any success, then Nip really struggles, especially if they can't run up the score on defense. Now, Bank is an interesting map because it's every single map has the same distinction, but Bank, more than anything, is typically very susceptible to operator bans to see which side ends up doing so well. Nip will usually win more defensive rounds than they won't because, like I said, that free-flowing roam that they have is usually able to surprise a lot of attackers because there isn't always a consistency to it. It's unpredictable, it can be all-consuming, and if they're unable to get a pick or two, then that spells trouble. And they've been feasting off the fact that Black Dragon's entry has been disconnected from one another both rounds now. Even though Black Dragons did win the last round, it was only because Drunks had such a magnificent solo effort with that one EOD from the lineup.
Yeah.
But it also didn't appear that he was really getting droned in, so that was mostly just him and his game sense carrying him through that round. The rest of the team, the entry was not as strong as it could have been, and if it wasn't for Drunks being able to play very well that round, it could have quite easily gone in favor of the opponents and Nip.
Yeah, they're definitely relying a lot on that line to be able to help with these pushes. And interesting, you saw the line actually fighting an angle outside, which he gets a successful kill from, instead of playing as the having the glass out there. But it seemed to work out. He has that ACOG, managed to make it work. They also had another change of bringing the Thatcher this time. You just heard one of his EMPs go off, as they are trying to at least clear some utility here, try to make sense. But there's two ADSs on that wall directly to Kamikaze's left there. So if they can read into that and clear those out, they will be able to huck a lot of grenades in at him. But he also has the escape hatch.
Yeah, and you've got Kamikaze going to be the big focal point here as they circle the wagons around him. He's got PZD, if need be, to tag in, who might actually be able to catch the Zofia off guard. But no, the Zofia's looking in that direction. PZD just above the head of Drunks. And Drunks right now almost single-handedly responsible for all the success that Black Dragons is having. Slash will add to the kill count, though, with Kamikaze falling. And Julio and Psycho, who were last two alive for Nip last round, will find themselves in that same position.
Oh.
Beautiful shot from Julio, just waiting for Slash to push up. That hatch is such a strong place to play under, especially if you've got a great gun like the Alda at your disposal.
Well, hopefully for him, he managed to get at least some utility taken out with his EMPs, because of course they don't have a hub on it open, any kind of hatches or anything like that, and they are going to be dealing with Thermite trying to get into different areas to be able to open these things up. But the ACOG of Julio wins that fight.
And Drunks tries to dodge and weave it, but Julio just able to hammer down on that recoil and put what was a huge advantage for Black Dragons in a more manageable position. But now Julio is going to need to ace clutch, as Psycho will not find a kill before the Thermite of Smalls, the newest member of Black Dragons, gets his second kill, holding a tight angle as Levi just inside of the site. Julio would have to retake, and it's cut off. No avenue whatsoever to get back in, and that's going to be 2-1 for Black Dragons. It looks like we might have another rehost.
Unfortunately, they are losing WAG again early in the round, and I think that's making a difference here in terms of their ability to at least play back a little bit safer. I mean, obviously, Smoke is a little bit nerfed in terms of his SMG-11, but nonetheless, he's still a formidable foe. You see the shotgun. I think the shotgun gets a bit more play. Now, the SMG-11 is a little bit weaker, especially for players like Slash, like we saw last night. Different Slash, of course. Not the Slash on this team, Slash Hug, that is.
Yes.
But I think some players are kind of adapting to that. But because of that, we're seeing WAG go off early on that smoke both times, and I think it's costing them just a lot of time they're not able to burn against that push. You see, even when he's a roaming smoke, he'll still use the smoke sometimes to burn some time or give himself cover. But I think he's maybe playing a little over-aggressive as well. He might be a little antsy after these remakes. Yeah,
I'm not exactly certain the way that they're employing or deploying WAG. You know, he ends up actually being, in previous seasons, somebody who, well, he doesn't quite get a lot of kills. He actually survives a fair amount of rounds. We saw this, I remember in particular, in Sao Paulo when we were looking at the stat breakdown before they went to the finals against ENCE. He was staying alive almost every round because, like I said, Nip was able to get huge priority picks on the roam. Now, their roam hasn't quite been as successful through 3 rounds that we've seen. Did great on round number 1, looked to be doing okay on round number 2 before things collapsed because Drunks pushed in, got a kill after on Tawag as that EOD went off, and then walked in towards conference room and caught the Legion looking the wrong way. Swiftly picked up those 2 kills, which really set the rest of BD's push in motion. And then that round in particular, that was the most successful round we saw from Black Dragons because they were able to get the roamers out of action in under 90 seconds, which is the briskest pace.
Ironically enough, it's the 2 rounds without Jackal as well.
Yes.
Like, they got rid of the Jackal and then somehow cleared the roamers faster.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jackal was the first to die the first round, so what didn't have an impact on that round. But it does seem ironic that he switched over to the Glass and somehow they would do better on roam cleared. Not that the Glass hasn't been part of that, because he's putting a lot of fear in. Maybe it's just that they're not able to play the open areas the same way they would because of fear of the Glass in terms of his ability to catch them out and kill them. We actually did see, rather than the Glass, it was the Lion playing the long angle with ACOG, putting fear into the lobby, did manage to get a pick out of it as well. So maybe they're just being smarter about playing a lot of pressure from the sides, forcing rotates on those roamers, catching them on those rotates, and then able to execute from there.
It's also a very static lineup from Nip on the way that they're defending. The last couple times that we've seen them on bank, part of their arsenal has been Julio on that mute, not necessarily running the Maestro every single round, running an Alibi as well, running a Valkyrie too. Now, Valkyrie's not banned, Alibi's not banned, so both of these operators could come up at any point. Is this Nip trying to come up with new strats? Because, I mean, take a look at their most recent samples on bank. You know, they play in bank, okay, they lose to Immortals on bank 7-6 for the Paris Quals. They end up playing Immortals again in the Paris Major Quals. After both teams have qualified, they win 6-4. They 6-0'd Boot Camp on bank. They 6-4'd Fnatic on bank, and then they barely lost to EG on bank, one of EG's best maps. EG ended up winning that one 6-4. So this is traditionally a pretty good map. There's only been 1 loss on bank as Nip hasn't played bank in the Pro League this season. They've only had 1 loss on bank so far. That was to EG, which is not a bad team to lose to here.
Yeah.
If they lose to Black Dragons, they'd of course have their only play on bank in the season be a loss, and that would be a bit strange given how dominant they seem to have been on this map as of late.
Well, this is of course a case where you know, they might just not be adapted to the new operators, the new play style. All the recoils have changed, things like that. But at the same time, they had a good first round. They've only lost 2 rounds. They're only down 1 point. Definitely could see a comeback, but there's only so many rounds for side switch. Maybe attack will be their strength because, you know, we don't see from the stats necessarily which of those rounds that they won. It might have been a lot of attack-favored rounds. They might just be suffering on defense. And it could also just be, you know, the way Black Dragons are playing it is not what they're necessarily prepared for, and that could be a problem. Although there's a chance that Black Dragons could have watched some of those previous net matches, the ones that weren't part of Pro League, and caught how they were playing it and are just catching them off guard.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. As we're just getting ready, we should be loading in just a moment. In the EG Nip matchup in particular, worth noting that the defense won most of those rounds. Rogue FaZe, when they played on bank, defense won most of those rounds. Fnatic versus Nip, defense won most of those rounds. So bank has been a map that at least consistently over the last little while, the Fnatic G2 or the G2 Secret matchup, G2 won most on defense as well. Same with Secret. So our sample size of bank over the last little while has mostly been defender favored, and by quite a large margin. It's been like 7-3, 6-4 for the defense. You know, so these are big scores getting run up here, and the fact that Black Dragons has already managed to take 2 on what should be the defense walking away with this. You know, Nip will need to win the next 2 in order to walk away with the defensive victory on this half, and that is already a pretty big accomplishment from Black Dragons to win 2, because then they have defense to look forward to.
Well, to be fair, they've only lost on 1 of the bomb sites. They just played it twice. They won on lockers. They did just fine there. It's tellers that seems to be the problem for them. And again, I think part of that is the way it constrains your roam. It doesn't literally constrain it, but by design of the way you have to defend that bomb site, you kind of have to play this sort of split, much the way you somewhat they have to play ventilation on border, for example. You kind of have to have a couple people on that site, and then you kind of have to have a couple people right above it. Every once in a while, you'll have someone that'll play all the way down in the basement, especially if there's like a pulse or something like that, or a vigil roam, things like that. But in this case, they're playing a bit more around that, and you don't see them setting up a lot of utility for that. They're not setting up castle barricades or anything like that to slow them down. They're not. I mean, they are setting up at least things like being able to defend the janitor closet with ADSs, and Kamikaze doing a good job trying to defend that. But outside of a little bit of setup of hatches and some defensive utility, they're not doing anything to slow down that push. And you saw, as you mentioned, that swift execution that second round because of the predictability.
Right.
We know there's going to be someone playing that janitor closet. We know there might be someone in CEO. We know there's probably going to be 2 down in Teller's Archives itself, maybe 1 in each. We have a general idea where they're going to be. We don't need a Jackal to hunt them down. There's just maybe going to be one guy that's the wild card. Maybe it's just going to be that Maestro over an open area, something like that. And then, maybe we could play the hatches to get an idea where he's at. And he did get the kill, then they kind of knew where he was at that point.
Yeah. Let's just break down some more stats here for you as we wait for this game to start up. In the last 2 matches that we saw Ninjas and Pyjamas play on Bank, both in their EG and Fnatic matchup, when NiP played on defense, they went CCTV Tellers, open area, CCTV Tellers. NiP only lost their first CCTV defense and then won all of their defenses after that. Tellers, open, CCTV Tellers. Did not go to CEO at all.
That's BD's primary, so that should be interesting when the sides switch.
Yes.
Because that's the one they started on previously, so I got to imagine that would be their main one. But
Right.
they seem to know how to attack it fairly well, so that would make sense. Usually you know how to attack your own defense and vice versa.
Right. And then in the EG versus NiP matchup, obviously it went the full 10 yards as well, and that's a pun. NiP went CCTV Tellers open, won all 3 of those sites, then went CCTV twice, and EG was able to thwart them both times that they returned to CCTV, and that was what ultimately ended up giving EG the victory, was because of those two unsuccessful defenses downstairs on the site that, as it stands right now, is the only one that NiP has been able to successfully defend. So Tellers, both failed. We're going to load into the game in just a second, and I'd imagine that because CCTV Lockers is open downstairs, they're going to go back down there.
I would think that would be the smart thing to do, or if you really actually do have a CEO defense now, you could go to that. But nonetheless, you should go back to the one that you won, especially when you're down a point at this point.
Yeah. So, I mean, CCTV, you can also go to open areas. We said CEO is not a site that we see get played by NiP with any real frequency.
I would take it over open area any day, though, at this point.
So we'll load into the game, and would you look at that? It's going to be Locker CCTV downstairs.
There we go. This time, Drunk's going to be on Glaz. Now, he's been so successful on Zofia, it surprises me to see him switch places with Lev. But in this case, he is actually going to 6-pick over to Twitch, although it looks like he's reconsidering. No, he's going to stick it. Now, they were going to bring a castle for a minute there, but Wag's going to sneak off that as well. So hopefully those 6 picks work out for them. So they will have a bit more intel, though, with Wag's cameras to be on this roam. Going to have Kamikaze on that smoke. I think hopefully their roam should be effective again. I mean, it was fairly effective on the site last time. They're going to have the cameras and the extra intel. They also could even potentially use one of the yokais as a roam helper. Assuming they don't want to play 2 on site, because they also will have the Evil Eyes, I imagine, on site as well. So plenty of ways for them to play this to support those roamers and repeat their success at their first round. And there is, again, no Jackal this time on the attack, although it didn't make much of a difference last time. But I got to imagine there's still potential use for it, because relying on the Lion for the pushes is not necessarily the best way to play this particular bomb site on attack. I mean, it is good to freeze them towards the end, especially if you want to go for the actual plant. You can freeze them, try and stick that plant down. But it's not like it's really hard for the smoke to peek out, especially when there is no glass here this time to hold them down on that.
Yeah. All right, so let's get underway here. Well, that glass has been such a force as well, so it is a bit of a surprise to see them not opt to run him there. But, I mean, they also didn't run him the first time.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's the case where it's Levy's been doing so good on it. It's weird to see him switch operators with Drunks, who's been successful on Zofia. Then again, if we haven't seen Levy Zofia, maybe he has a good one as well. But RDZ, again, he's doing really good on some of these initial kills.
Black Dragons is in 2 very fast and early kills. 40 seconds, you lose both your Echo and your Smoke, and now the Maestro. That's 3 anchors. This is a great read from Black Dragons to just attack the site as quickly as they can and put the 2 roamers in a very tense retake position. Easy plant for Small as he will just complete the defuse, meaning PZD and Wag in a 2v5. Will have 2 minutes to think on their sins, and Wag will start things off with a kill onto Drunks. But remember, these could be possibly impactless frags. Black Dragons will burn another EOD, and we'll see if PZD is able to finish off Slash, the Ash is down, and then complete it. What was a 2v5 is evened up more towards a 2v3, but this is where the real difficult task happens, as you've got ACOGs trained at the retake for the site. Levi will manage to finish off PZD before PZD can work in, and then Wag will try to walk through the door, but try is the key word there, as Small closes things out. And a site that had been previously won by NiP will be over within 50 seconds.
good read. We were just talking so much about the roam game, and that's exactly what Black Dragons read into. They said, the roam is our biggest problem in attacking the site, so let's just skip them. If we drone and they're not in our path of entry, we don't really need to do it. And then our RDZ with that opening kill, of course, absolutely helped. Getting that initial kill, one less person to worry about on the actual push itself. And, I mean, it was a decent attempt at a retake by the last 2 roamers that were left, but against so many that had the bomb plant as well, it was going to be a tough spot. They're going to try lockers one more time, though, this time with a pulse in tow. I imagine he might play a bit more on site rather than on roam this time and try and hold it off for an actual plant just in case. Although you never know. The way, if Wag's a roaming smoke, I could imagine him being a roaming pulse on here as well. Slash going to tease that Maverick, and once again, we're going to see a different player on Zofia.
I'm more than anything, I'm just so surprised at how they've managed to right this ship. You know, it's here out of nowhere, you start things off with Nip looking like Black Dragons are just chumps and have no clue how to enter. They enter separately, they get picked off by 2 members of Nip real early on. Everything looks like it's just falling to pieces, and your snapshot after that first round that we saw was, wow, Black Dragons are really going to have to figure out how to get inside the building with some semblance of coordination, or else, Nip is just going to feast on them for the next 4 rounds after this.
10 seconds left.
Cue the next 3 rounds, and what ends up happening, but Black Dragons have they had a bit of a slow start in the second round, but rounds 3 and 4, they just looked unstoppable once they got into the building, especially as the pace has been just increased every round. It'll be tough to beat what we just saw. As you had both the Twitch and the Lion picking up kills for Black Dragons within the first 20 seconds. Unlikely that we'll be able to see that happen this time around, as we're about to hit that 20-second mark and everybody's still alive.
Well, this is the last attack round for Black Dragons, so if they could pull it off, a 4-1 lead is a great way to start going into the other side, especially if they might be a little shakier on that defense. But nonetheless, they have the operators that they need for this deck. We haven't seen a ton of impact for eggs from Slash and Small, but there have been a few good ones. But a lot of the opening kills have come down to Drunks and RDZ, so if they can continue to repeat that success with an opening kill or 2, I do think this could start to shift their way yet again.
I don't know if there's been an assessment that the push is going to move towards the bank vault side of things in the elevators, but Julio will move down the Evil Eye and realize that there's not appropriate coverage over on B. Now, A was, of course, being guarded by Wog, the smoke that was, or Kamikaze rather, that was playing the smoke behind the server stack. Once again, so used to seeing Wog on that role all the time. Having Kamikaze there is very intriguing. Not exactly sure what's going on with the ping here, but apparently there's been a litany of issues between these 2 teams. Unfortunate to see that start off under those circumstances. But Slash and RDZ just watching towards the blue stairs, but where you'd usually see a member of a team or 2 positioned over there, there'll be nobody. It doesn't look like Levi had a drone on the Echo of Psycho, who was just sitting immobile by the door towards Garage. If he doesn't bother to move at all, that could be a very vulnerable spot for him to be in. RDZ with a couple opening frags now, as he'll start round number 5 with the very first kill as he gets Wog, who, by the way, Wog leading the way with opening deaths on his team.
Yeah, he's kind of the flip side of RDZ here. The nice thing is that Levi bringing the Jackal again, but this time being much more careful about it, droning for his teammates instead of face checking. He is still alive at this point, so by the time they start to get going for pushing site, he might be able to pick up footprints of any roamers remaining and help prevent that retake along with the Lion.
And what has been a very smart idea, this Evil Eye positioned to see Drunks as he drops through the vault hatch. He'll lose some of his health. He's got the smoke to his right. He's got both a Yokai and an Evil Eye on him. We'll see if there's going to be a crossfire that they can establish, as the Echo was playing by that door into Garage. Could possibly have a line of sight, but the rest of Black Dragons will drop through the elevator, and now it's going to be all on Julio, who moves around the money stack, sees the glass's head for just a second. PZD had been finished earlier on and his plant going down. That's going to be Small getting zapped for 5 damage apiece before they lose the Evil Eye. Slash and Levi are there, and this looks like a lockout, as now it's just Julio again. But the PMM of Drunks gets unholstered. They'll find a bullet through the skull of Julio, meaning that it's 4-1 in favor of Black Dragons. And this could be a very fast match, as they'll switch sides, and we'll see Black Dragons go on to defense.
Well, this was definitely not the start we expected. While both of these guys were down at the bottom of the leaderboard, I feel like Nip had much better run lately, not just the offline events, but also in the Pro League itself. Between those 2, they definitely should be doing better than this at this point. But maybe they're just off to a rough start. Sound like there might have been some issues with their internet connection, and maybe some of these remakes are kind of throwing them off a little bit. We'll see if Small sticks on that operator. Something we have seen some good plays from on Bank, in particular Eunice. Highlight for that.
Now, the way that Nip had structured their defense to put the focus on server and then have very little presence inside of lockers, they read after the first 20 to 30 seconds, likely from drone placement and where the entry of Black Dragons was, as the entry tended to be towards tellers to open up that hatch inside of vault and then lockers as well, that it was very much going to be a B push on towards the lockers bomb site. So Nip readjusted. You saw they shot out the bottom of the wall that led into the part of vault right under the hatch. So if somebody dropped through that hatch, you'd have the floor open so you could return fire quite easily and take away the cover that the attackers would have had. You also set down the Evil Eye that can see through those open hatches, and most importantly can see through the smoke that would likely come from any smoke operator, whether they were running a Jackal or a Glass. A Glass was in play for Black Dragons, so it ended up being the right call. But they lost Wag as he was roaming, and that put a lot of pressure on the rest of the site players. I think PZD realized that he needed to get closer to the site. He got picked off as he was trying to help the rest of his team, and you find yourself in a 3v5. It's a winnable situation, but it requires you to play it smart. And with how aggressive Black Dragons has been, I don't think Nip is prepared for the plays that BD is having, especially when you saw the Jackal as well as the Glass drop through those two hatches and use their focus on the B wall, because even with that Evil Eye there, the numbers advantage was in favor of Black Dragons. They started to get the plant down, and Nip had to scramble.
It definitely would have been a different occasion, of course, had Small already been on low on health. They would have been able to stop the defuse and force them to scramble for it. But the Evil Eye, yeah, only does a certain amount of damage, wasn't able to finish the job in time. And I think that was a significant factor for them, relying on that versus, say, an Echo Drone.
Yeah, and the Echo Drone was in play too. Keep in mind that they had Psycho on the Echo, so there was lots of utility and gadgets that Nip could have used to possibly try and stop that plant, but Black Dragons played it very well, and as we said, 3 of them dropped through the hatch in both elevator and then through vault, so Small is stalking his prey. He'll see on the default cam that a member of Nip has shot it on those marble stairs. And you can see there's PZD. The Ash is immobile, droning right now, but now we'll pop off and go for the drone.
Oh.
The Lion coming in, and there you go. The Lion will get downed, and Small will finish him. I think wisely realizing that there was the Ash there. Keep in mind the Ash was the one that was found on cam. Small's going to have to shoot his way out of here as a flash goes in, and PZD trying to circle in. Who's going to win? He'll be Head, the Caveira. No second follow-up there from the Cav. Wog had jumped in too, so even if PZD had been taken down, no interrogation as Wog would have been there for the follow-up.
Well, a nice attempt, though. Getting that kill on the Lion's definitely going to help because, of course, we know how impactful Lion can be, especially when it comes to stopping the retakes. But in this case, there's still some good utility left. You got Psycho on that Glass, Julio on that Capitao. Unfortunately, though, for Levy, he's going to have to pull off the stairs, and that is a lot of aggression coming from both sides, but he still wins the fight.
I can't believe that at such close range. That SMG-11 does have a great amount of firepower, but manages to outduel a Glass in the fire of Wog. Oh my goodness, Julio's Capitao Firebolt is able to kill almost all of Wog, and then he steps in one goo mine, and this is just a calamity from Nip. As things falling apart, now you've got the Jaeger of RDZ getting very aggressive on blue stairs. And once again, I'll say this for probably the 4th time today, Julio is the last member of Nip alive. Will his patience be rewarded? Well, he'll find Drunks. Still got 2 more to go, but the clock is going to be his biggest adversary. He's only got 15 seconds left. He uses one of his smoke bolts to try and clear a way in, but Slash will be holding a tight angle. Another smoke will go in, and a pre-fire from Slash as that's... You realize there's under 10 seconds left. He's going to try to rush through that smoke. Yeah. You can just fire away and hope that your bullets hit. He gets lucky enough. Now that's 5 consecutive rounds for Black Dragons. They're on match point here.
And that's the problem. You don't want to push through an area where there is a Maestro watching. When you've got 80 bullets, you could pretty much cover that area with pre-fire for as long as you need at that point. It was definitely not a situation where that was even very winnable for him just because of the utility they had left. I mean, an Evil Eye could have finished him off as well. He'd already taken so much damage. Definitely a tough spot to be in. But here's CEO for the first time. Maybe this is where Nip's fortune will change. If not, then it's over.
Yeah, I'm honestly very puzzled at the way
Nip
has been such an odd team this year. We always know that Nip performs better on land. Michael pointed out yesterday that there are certain teams that do very well on land. A good example of that is Liquid as a team has never had the same success in typically online as they have at LAN events, whereas FaZe has been the opposite. FaZe has been very consistent online, but at LANs, FaZe has almost always fallen through. The exception being, of course, in Brazil. This is the second time in a row that they've won BR6. FaZe just walked away with the victory this weekend. So that was a feather in their cap. But FaZe at international LAN contests have largely been victims of the quarterfinals, getting to the semis, don't get me wrong, and they didn't even make it out of groups in Paris. So with NIP, yeah, they're a team that excels when they're in person with one another, competing on that LAN build. But online, especially this season in particular, they have not looked that good. Also, strange though that NIP, who were competing under the Black Dragons handle on the weekend for BR6, finished second to FaZe, losing 2-1. So it's not like the team has had a poor run. They just did quite well within the last 48 hours.
Well, this is, of course, you know, maybe the first victory for Black Dragons, but that's sometimes it happens. You get that shot. They made some changes. I mean, maybe the addition of Small made a difference. Maybe it is with Cloud9 and bringing on Mark. It wasn't necessarily, I mean, although to be fair, Mark was getting a lot of frags, whereas I can't say necessarily the same for Small, but maybe that was the player they needed to really change up the roles that they were playing and allow some of the other players that were able to frag out to play some more of those frag-heavy roles, or some of the operators they were looking to play because now they have maybe the support operator they needed. It's one of those small things that you don't necessarily know a lot about unless you're on the team itself and their internal structure. But it is sometimes a big, big difference. And so far, I'd say it's working, except for WAG.
Except for here, the Rook will get down as he vaults over Skylight Stairwell. RDZ taking WAG out again. WAG yet again being the opening death in this matchup. And for NIP, it has been putting them at a 4v5 on so many different rounds. It's unfortunate for them because WAG usually doesn't play a role where he's the first one to die.
Especially being the Thermite. He definitely should be. I mean, it's Thermite and Smoke. He shouldn't be playing aggressive. In this case, he did play over-aggressive. Not sure what RDZ's doing, if he's just trying to bait them out or hide at this point. But nonetheless, he got away with that kill, and it was on the only hard breacher. So even dying right there and burning that much time to kill him, he absolutely did his job phenomenally.
Yeah, you got a Doc instead. He gets back up and is back into the fight. But it was a Rook, so he didn't have any chance to heal himself back. So you trade a Rook for a Thermite. I'll take that any day of the week.
Especially since he gave out his armor.
Yeah, and I mean, you lose the hard breacher for NIP, which on CEO, as you noted, is the default site typically for Black Dragons. It's not detrimental. You don't really need a Thermite here. We mentioned this yesterday when Hibana was taken out. I struggle to remember exactly what match it was yesterday, but Hibana was taken out on one of the sites, and I think it was actually, it was Kitchen on Coastline. You lose a Hibana. You don't need a Hibana. Obviously, it's always good to have a hard breacher for your execute because there's usually going to be a strat involved with that. But there you go. Drunk's a nice reflexive shot on the Psycho as he just peeks around the window, and that's the Glaz, who has really not seen much success for NIP so far. Usually, we see a lot of Psycho being able to just strike fear in the hearts of everyone. PZD looks the wrong way as he works out of stock trading and absorbs a lot of damage from Slash the Maestro. Now Smoke here, but no! Levi manages to get PZD as Kamikaze has to hold fire lest he end up hurting his own teammate. And with Julio being finished off by Small, as you touched upon, it's sometimes it can make a small difference. Well, it definitely seems like he did. A very quick match as it's a 6-1 in favor of Black Dragons versus NIP, the old Black Dragons. And what's old is new again. It was a 5-5 tie the first time that these teams met, so Black Dragons will walk away with the tiebreaker between the two teams, 6-1.
Ooh. Well, that's got to feel good for a team that's been struggling this whole time. We come to the second half. I wouldn't credit it necessarily to new ops or bomb sites or anything like that. It was just they were playing much, much better as a team. And I think we saw a bit of sloppy play from NIP, especially